Scatter plots are used to show the relationship between two variables, specifically quantitative variables. What we have here is gold medal 100 meter dash time. So in a given year, what the time was for the gold medal winner in the Olympics 100 meter dash. What we want to do is we want to construct a scatter plot showing the relationship between what year it is and the time. Now, because we want our axes on our scatter plot to start at 0 rather than up at 1900 and go up to 2012, we want to transform our variable into something that communicates years since 1990. So 1990 would be 0 years since 1990. 1904 would be 4 years since 1990. We could go down and do this manually, but there's another way to do it that automates it so that if we ever change any of these years, it automatically updates. What we're going to do is we're going to build a function in this first column that defines the relationship between year and years since 1990. So I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to select the box that the year is in right next to it, and then minus 1900, and enter. Well, what it's doing is it's taking whatever value is in this box and subtracting 1900 from it, therefore giving you the difference between the year listed here and the year 1900. And obviously it's 0. But what I can do now is highlight this box which has the equation in it, grab the corner where the square is, drag it all the way down, and it'll automatically calculate every given year here how many years it is since 1990. So we now have the two sets of data that we want to construct a scatter plot from. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight our two sets of data. Now typically you want your independent variable on the left or your dependent variable on the right. Excel automatically chooses the left column as the independent variable, which gets plotted along the x-axis, and the right column as the dependent variable, which gets plotted along the y-axis. And in fact, time is dependent upon what year it is. The time it takes to run the 100 meter dash, or the gold medal winner of the 100 meter dash, is dependent upon what year it is. So with our data highlighted, we're going to go to Insert, and the option over here in the Charts section, we have Scatter. We are going to choose the very first option under Scatter. And when we do that, it automatically grabs that data and formats a chart for us where years since 1990 is along the x-axis and the time it takes to run the 100 meter dash is along the y-axis. Now to make this easier to work with, we want to take this chart and move it. We want to move the chart to its own sheet. So new sheet, we'll title this chart. Chart. Click OK. You'll notice down here it created a new tab, a new sheet labeled chart, and now the chart is a standalone sheet rather than inside of a sheet that contains a spreadsheet of data. So chart, go back to our chart. We want to do a couple things with this chart. We want to add title. So layout, chart title, above chart, call this gold medal 100 meter dash times. So we've got our label. I'm going to insert a label along, I'm going to insert an axis title along my horizontal axis, by axis title, horizontal, listed below. Now this down here is years since 1900. So we've labeled that. And now back to axis title. I'm going to do a vertical axis, rotated title. These represent time, capitalize that, time in seconds. I want to make sure we include the units of our labels as well. So now we're appropriately labeled. Because I only have one set of data graphed on here. I don't need this legend over here, so I'm going to highlight that and delete it. That way it doesn't use up the space on the right hand side. Now there's two other things that we want to do. Number one, we want to adjust this vertical axis, because really we need to be starting each axis at 0. The horizontal axis starts at 0 because we transformed our data. But just for appropriate chart formatting, we want to do our vertical axis. So again, let me show that again. I highlight it, right click on that axis. Oh, I didn't select that. So I highlight my data, or my scaling on my vertical axis, right click, format axes. Now here it allows me to fix minimum and maximum values. Right now they're auto selected. I'm going to take minimum and I'm going to set it to 0. Okay, and close. So now it's going to reset it at 0, go up to 12. So obviously most of my data was between 12 and 9, so all the data is up here. But it's important to start down at 0 so that you see how far away you are from 0 with your data. So great, we have things appropriately scaled now, and we see a better relationship of, or a better slope, representation of the slope of our data. It looks like it has a negative slope to it. What we want to do now is add a trend line to our data. So I'm going to make sure I have my chart selected, and underneath layout, so in chart tools, design, format, and layout, underneath layout we have this option of trend line. I'm going to click on that, have some preset options here. I'm going to go down to more trend line options, which shows a little more information about things that you can, trend line options that you can set. We want to do a basic linear trend line, which is already selected. And I want to come down here and I want to not only have Excel draw a trend line, I want it to calculate the equation of that trend line. So I'm going to select this box right here that says display equation on chart. And I also want it to display its R squared value on the chart. So I'm going to click that button as well. Check that box as well. And I'm going to click close. So what you'll see now is it has drawn a trend line through our data, a line of best fit, a regression line. And I also have this text box that appeared on top of my chart, which shows the equation of that trend line and my R squared value. So I want that a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. So I'm going to highlight it, go back to home, and I'm going to increase the font. And that looks a little bit better, a lot easier to read. And now you have a scatter plot showing the relationship between years since 1900 and the time it took the gold medal winner to run the 100-meter dash. In addition, we have our axes appropriately scaled, always starting at 0. And we have a trend line through our data, as well as the equation of the trend line and our R squared value.